So never in my life did I think that I would be on social media teaching the Bible, but here we go. So over the last few days, I have heard a specific phrase multiple times from multiple different places, and this is not a phrase that's part of normal everyday conversation. It is a Bible reference. So finally I said, okay, fine, I'll go look it up. And there was another thing also that popped up a few times that caught my attention. Fine, I'll go look it up too. What that led me to is Matthew chapter 13 and Revelation chapter 20. So Matthew 13 are the parables. This is the parable of the sower, which, fun fact, the Octavia Butler book, the parable of the sower, it's a dystopian novel. It's set between 2024 and 2027. But anywho, we've got also have the parable of the wheat and the tares. Okay, this is the farmer plants the wheat, the evildoer comes in the middle of the night and plants along with the wheat seeds for the tares, which is weeds basically. But as they grow, they look the same until they hit a certain point before you realize that they are two different things. But in order to not mess up the wheat, you just let them grow together and you wait until they're harvested and you separate them and you throw the tares into the fire and you keep the wheat for, what it's used for. Now in Revelation 20, for my supernatural fans, after Lucifer gets out of the cage, he goes and runs amok for a while. And then after he runs amok for a while, basically the same thing happens as what happened with the wheat and the tares. Everyone gets cut down at the same time, and then they are sorted out after. These ones go to the fire, these ones go to heaven. Now, I want to be real clear here. I don't actually believe in like a burning pit of hell. I actually don't even believe in like Satan as like this horrible evil being that's trying to suck you away from God. I actually see the idea of Satan a little more like God sending his buddy down for a loyalty test type of thing, kind of like a jealous boyfriend thing. So whether or not I believe that whole going to hell thing, I really don't. I actually think that where we are right now is hell, like we're in the bad place, okay? But I found that very interesting that these two correlated to each other in that way. What I found even more interesting is that these two things, the parables and John's vision and revelation, were written roughly 70 years apart from each other. Do you guys remember a while back when I said that we are seeing the outcome of a 70-year-long game of chess? What is interesting, and I caught this actually a long time ago, Uranus in Gemini, we all know every time Uranus enters Gemini, every 84 years, the shit hits the fan, right? At the beginning of Revelation, John describes Jesus as holding 7 stars in his right hand and having a tongue of a double-edged sword. The 7 stars is the Pleiades star cluster. If I were to describe Uranus in a visual way, I would absolutely call it a double-edged sword of truth because it is showing you the things that you don't want to see. And as Uranus moves through the Pleiades star cluster, which is called the 7 Weeping Sisters, and then moves into Gemini where it hits that last star associated with the phrase, I will give you something to cry about, that's where things blow up, okay? Every single time. World War II, the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, they all happened in reference to this transit, okay? So that's 70 years between the parable and Revelation, and the 7 years between when things started to happen here, started to be planted here, and where we're at now is Uranus in Cancer and Uranus in Taurus. It seems as though the seeds get planted when Uranus is in Cancer, and they are then, we're warned basically when Uranus is in Taurus, where it is now. Now, it's interesting here is that, you see I have 2 different Bibles here? The seeds were planted in the church. This one here was printed before those seeds were planted. This was printed in 1949. This one printed in 2014, so after. They say 2 very different things. Even in the parable itself, they say very different things. So what we have is a whole lot of evangelical Christians that have been raised their whole life to believe that they are the wheat and that we are the tares, okay? And they're willing to fight for that because the Bible tells them to. And that's why things get so out of hand, because it ends up so ingrained in people that they are doing what they are supposed to do. We also have to keep in mind this Bible is a King James. The King James Bible was also during a time where seeds were planted, right? So even this isn't correct. So we have to understand that the reason they're not hearing us is because they've been taught this side, and they've been taught that they're the weeds, that they are the wheat and we are the weeds. They don't understand that they have been lied to. They don't understand that they're the product of these seeds that have been planted. And we need to understand that. Things are going to happen. They're going to happen regardless. At this point, I am convinced that Revelation is simply that Uranus transit into Gemini, because as I look through history and I look through the transits throughout time, they match up, and they very much match up to what we're seeing here in the Bible between these two things, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind when like somebody is just not hearing you. When we tell them, hey, the Bible didn't used to say that, they think that we're believing propaganda. I personally have it here, right here. This doesn't say homosexual. This doesn't say love is patient, love is blind. It says charity, not love, right? I've got the proof here, but most people don't. And so they're going to believe that it's propaganda no matter what you say. So we got to have a little patience with them. I know it's hard. Definitely don't put up with bigotry. You still are allowed to have that boundary, absolutely. But kind of understand this is where we're going. Things are going to hit the fan whether we like it or not. Not everybody's going to be cut down. Be real clear here that it's not the end of the world. It is simply a cycle that happens every 84 years. But just understand that for you, find your peace, find your space, find your connection with God, and work through this in the best way that you possibly can.